In a few moments, the news. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
.45, this is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavala, read by Soundit Avam. The payment of the Aswasama Social Beneficiary Programme for the month of August will be made from today. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says the salaries of all state sector employees will be increased in the upcoming 2024 budget. Fuel prices revised. India's finance minister to visit Sri Lanka today. The bus priority lane rule has been implemented. In foreign news, Israel military confirms deadly strike on Gaza refugee camp. And in sports, Pakistan beat Bangladesh at the 31st match of the ICC Cricket World Cup. State Minister Shehan Semasinghe says that the payment of Aswasama Social Beneficiary Programme for the month of August will be made from today. Accordingly, these funds will be credited to the beneficiaries' accounts. 8,500 million rupees will be credited to 1,365,000 beneficiaries. They can withdraw these funds from today onwards. The minister said that the aim of the government is to complete the payments for the month of September before the end of this month. In an effort to streamline the Aswasama benefit program and address ongoing concerns, the Ministry of Finance has announced the implementation of an Aswasama week from the 6th to the 11th of this month. The objective of this initiative is to promptly rectify the issues plaguing the program and ensure that deserving beneficiaries receive their entitled support without further delay. The State Minister of Finance, Shehan Semasinghe, said that this initiative aims to provide immediate support to families who have not yet received their entitled benefits. Furthermore, it extends its support to those who have been selected as relief beneficiaries, as well as those whose benefits have been subject to delay due to technical complications. State Minister Semasinghe stressed that the Aswasama week will facilitate the swift distribution of benefits to families who have encountered difficulties in receiving their entitled assistance. This includes both families who have not yet received any benefits and those who have experienced delays due to technical issues. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that President Ranil Wickremesinghe has announced in the cabinet meeting that he will take measures to raise the salaries of all state sector employees in the upcoming 2024 budget. President Wickremesinghe also requested the private sector to consider increasing the salaries along with the increase in the salaries of the government employees due to the rise in the cost of living. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has further said that it is the current government's policy to raise the wages of the working people. President Ranil Wickremesinghe's third budget proposal is scheduled to be submitted to Parliament on November 13th. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation announced that fuel prices revised with effect from midnight last night. Accordingly, the price of petrol 92 octane has been reduced by 9 rupees and the new price will be 356 rupees. Petrol octane 95 has been increased by 3 rupees and the new price will be 423 rupees. The price of auto diesel has been increased by 5 rupees and the new price will be 356 rupees. The price of super diesel has been increased by 10 rupees and the new price will be 431 rupees. The price of kerosene has been increased by 7 rupees and the new price will be 249 rupees. Meanwhile, the Lanka IOC, the local subsidiary of the Indian Oil Corporation, also announced that it would revise its rates in keeping with the CPETCO's price amendment. Sinopec Energy Lanka Private Limited, the Beijing-based oil and gas joint subsidiary in Sri Lanka, too has revised the prices of its petroleum products in keeping with the amended rates announced by the CPETCO and Lanka IOC. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will embark on a 3-day official visit to Sri Lanka today. As part of the official visit, Minister Sita Raman will engage in bilateral discussions with President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena. She will witness the exchange of the Memorandum of Understanding for solar electrification of religious places in Sri Lanka, wherein India will allocate 824 million Indian rupees out of the Indian government grant assistance of 1,074.7 million of Indian rupees earmarked for the promotion of Buddhist ties. Minister Sita Raman will also inaugurate SBI branches in Trincomalee and Jaffna tomorrow and the day after. She will visit the Sri Dalada Maligava in Kandy, Jai Sri Mahabodhi in Anuradhapura, Tirukoneswaram Temple in Trincomalee and the Nellur Kandaswamy Temple in Jaffna during the course of her visit to Sri Lanka. Besides the above engagements, Minister Sita Raman is also slated to visit Lanka IOC oil tank farms, the Jaffna Cultural Centre and the Jaffna Public Library during her visit. The police said that arrangements have been made to implement the bus priority lane rule starting today, and a 2-week period will be granted for bus drivers to adhere to the rule. This bus priority lane will come into effect during office rush hours in the mornings and the evenings. Accordingly, vehicles on Gaul Road must enter the priority lane from near the Savoy Cinema Vellavatta between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. and should proceed towards Colombo Fort through Gaul Road. Another priority lane rule will come into effect between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. from Maradana Boralla Junction to Olcott Mawata in Colombo Fort. The same lane will operate between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. as an exit. The bus priority lane will allow the operation of vehicles such as buses of the Sri Lanka Transport Board, private buses, school vans, office transport buses and vans. Vehicles except those stated above will not be permitted to enter the priority lane during these given times. Meanwhile, the traffic police have been advised to issue warnings during this time to drivers who break this law. That concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara said that Sri Lanka is set to award a multi-billion-dollar oil refinery project to a Chinese state-owned company after a rival bidder pulled out. He said the government would shortly enter into an investment agreement with Sinopec to build a refinery next to the Chinese-run port at the southern town of Hambantota. Sri Lanka had originally awarded the project, which had an estimated cost of $3.85 billion US, to an Indian family-owned company based in Singapore in 2019. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. The NBRO has issued several early landslide warnings to several areas of the island. Accordingly, Level 2 warnings have been issued to Tumpane in the Kandy district, Laggalapallegama in the Matale district, and Ratnapura, Kolanna, Godakavela, Veligepola, Kuruvita, Kalavana, Imbulpe, Balangoda, Alapatha, Opanayaka and Ahaliagoda in the Ratnapura district. That came to in Watchlight. Moving on to a bulletin of world news. Making headlines this morning, Israel military confirms deadly strike on Gaza refugee camp. Afghan refugees fear as Pakistan prepares for deportations. And Indonesia arrests 59 over alleged plot to disrupt presidential election. Israel's military has confirmed that its jets carried out an attack on the Jabalia refugee camp in Gaza. The IDF says the strike killed a senior Hamas commander and caused the collapse of the Hamas's underground infrastructure. The Hamas-run health ministry and a hospital director say at least 50 people were killed. Pictures on the scene show craters and leveled buildings. The camp is in northern Gaza, an area where Israel has told people to leave for their safety. On Tuesday morning, Israel said it hit 300 targets in Gaza overnight as its airstrikes and ground offensives continue. The IDF says its ground forces were attacked by terrorists with anti-tank missiles and machine gun fire. Israel has been bombing Gaza since the 7th of October. Hamas attacks that killed 1,400 people and saw at least 239 people kidnapped as hostages. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says more than 8,500 people have been killed since Israel's retaliatory bombing began. Thousands of Afghans living in Pakistan raced to the border on Tuesday ahead of a midnight deadline for undocumented foreigners to leave the country. Pakistan says 1.7 million such people must leave by 1st November or face arrest and deportation. Most are Afghans. Many refugees are terrified, having fled Afghanistan after the Taliban retook control in 2021. Others have been in Pakistan for decades. Quote, "Where will we go if we are forced to leave Pakistan?" unquote, asked a young woman. Sadia, who has been studying in Peshawar in northwest Pakistan, said she escaped Afghanistan 2 years ago for a chance at getting an education after the Taliban government barred girls and women from school under its harsh version of Islamic law. Tensions between the countries soared after a spike in cross-border attacks, which Islamabad blames on Afghanistan-based militants. Indonesian authorities have arrested dozens of people from hardline groups over suspected plots aimed at disrupting next year's presidential election. A spokesperson for Indonesia's counter-terrorism special detachment unit said the police arrested 59 suspects and seized weapons, propaganda material and bomb-making chemicals. He added that this will serve as a warning that the slightest threat to the domestic security would not be tolerated, especially in regard to the upcoming election. Back to the headlines of the world news. Israel military confirms deadly strike on Gaza refugee camp. Afghan refugees fear as Pakistan prepares for deportations. And Indonesia arrests 59 over alleged plot to disrupt presidential election. That concludes this bulletin of world news.
Development news.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Ramesh Patirana, emphasizes his prime goal is to increase the reliability of the public health sector of the island. It is not difficult to upgrade the quality of the health sector when equipped with the proper version. He said that he is determined to make relevant changes in the sector as required. The minister made these comments at a discussion held with the government medical officers held in the ministry. The professional dignity of the government medical officers should be upheld while joining hands to develop the health sector. That came to you in development news.
Moving on with sports news.
Pakistan beat Bangladesh at the 31st match of the ICC Cricket World Cup. Batting first, Bangladesh scored 204 runs all out at the end of 45.1 overs. In reply, Pakistan hit the target score in just 32.3 overs, losing only 3 wickets. That's sports news. We take a look at business news next.
Go ekaktiana youth ekat life eke change ekat niyameta set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekat niyameta set wenna friendship එක menna.
The all new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The US military in Japan has started to bulk buy the country's seafood in response to a Chinese import ban after the release of treated water from the Fukushima nuclear plant. The US ambassador to Japan, Rahm Emanuel, said Washington may also look into other ways to help counter China's ban. He described it as part of Beijing's economic wars. China, which is the biggest buyer of Japanese seafood, said it barred imports due to safety fears. That's business news. Economic news up next.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekaktiana youth ekat life eke change ekat niyameta set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekat niyameta set wenna friendship එක menna.
The all new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news. Cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said discussions with relevant stakeholders are underway to formulate a new Employment Act. President Ranil Wickremesinghe recently said that Sri Lanka will bring a comprehensive law to regulate labour, adding that labour movement of the island should be modernised in line with global trends. That's economic news. Moving on to the weather report, showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in most of the provinces of the island after 2 p.m. Showers or thundershowers will occur in the eastern province during the morning. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimetres are likely at some places in the western, Sabragamur, central, southern and Uva provinces and in the Kurunegala district. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the Sabragama, Central and Uva provinces during the morning as well. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. The payment of the Asvasuma Social Beneficiary Programme for the month of August will be made from today. Minister Dr. Bandala Gunawadana says the salaries of all state sector employees will be increased in the upcoming 2024 budget. Fuel prices revised. India's finance minister to visit Sri Lanka today. The bus priority lane rule has now been implemented. Israel's military confirms deadly strike on Gaza refugee camp. And Pakistan beat Bangladesh at the 31st match of the ICC Cricket World Cup. That concludes this morning's news broadcast, and it's back to Dilshan this Wednesday morning.